don't know what was dumber, going back to that house or believing they invited me because they missed me. But Jace had spent a whole week carving a handmade gift. A picture frame from scrap wood. Crooked handwriting in the corner. "Happy birthday, Grandma Evelyn." So I wore my plainest dress, tied my hair up, and played the part of the polite, cooperative daughter. The house looked the same. Gray roof, repainted front door. New biometric scanner that blinked red before turning green, like we were checking into a federal bunker. Evelyn answered the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Delilah, you're just in time. Taylor just finished telling your father about her investment pitch." She dropped the words "your father" like they were rocks she didn't want to carry. Jace stepped in first. He's quiet like that, watchful, polite. The kind of kid who's had to observe adults closely, just to stay safe. My father, Isaac Knox, sat at the head of the table. Silver hair, military watch, posture like the war never left him. He nodded in my direction once. Then turned to Taylor, his real heir, as if I were just the delivery girl for dessert. "Delilah," Taylor said, raising her wine glass. "Didn't think you'd leave your little classroom behind. Must have been hard for the students." Soft laughs followed, not loud enough to call it mockery, but sharp enough to cut. Evelyn chimed in, sweet and smug. "Teaching underprivileged kids must be exhausting, huh? But let's not talk about struggle today. It's my birthday, after all." I smiled, the kind of smile you learn when you've been bitten and taught not to show blood. No one asked about Jace. No one asked how we were doing. No one said his name. They didn't mention my ex-husband either, though his shadow lingered in every silence. The food was lukewarm, the room colder. I caught Taylor glancing more than once toward the basement door. The one with the new fingerprint, lock glowing faint red. Like something in there was alive, or dangerous. Jace stayed silent through most of dinner, but his eyes moved. He sees everything, especially what people think they've hidden. After dessert, I got up to wash my hands. The bathroom was next to the hallway that led down to the storage room. I dried my hands slowly, checked my reflection in the mirror, and that's when Jace appeared behind me, quiet as ever. He looked up and whispered, "Mom, they're hiding a document. I saw your fingerprint on it." I didn't ask questions. I just looked at myself in that mirror, a woman once trained to build bridges, now learning how to rebuild herself, and took my son's hand. Behind us, the birthday cake was still whole, but I knew this party wasn't for celebration. It was a setup, one they hoped would erase me, quietly, legally, and permanently. Still Temple, Texas, same birthday party. But now the walls were listening. I didn't grab my purse, didn't say goodbye, didn't even flush the sink water. I just wrapped Jace's hand in mine and walked straight to the door. "Where are you going?" Evelyn's voice echoed down the hallway. I didn't turn around. "Home," I said, and walked out before anyone could pretend to care. The Texas sun had cooled, but my palms were sweating. Jace stayed quiet until we were in the car, doors locked, engine humming, eyes forward. Then he spoke. "They were in the basement, Mom, Evelyn and Taylor." My throat tightened. They were arguing. Evelyn wanted to wait. Taylor said, "You're unstable enough to make it stick, whatever it is." He paused. "She said once you signed, custody would transfer. Full, no visitation." I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. "What document, Jace? What did you see?" He looked out the window. "Something like a consent form, but your name. Your fingerprint was already on it." I gripped the steering wheel. "Your dad was on the phone. I heard him say, if she hesitates, mention the subsidy increase. Say it's about stability." Subsidy. That word hit harder than betrayal. In 2036, government child support had become privatized, linked to biometric clearance, parental stability index, and household economic score. It wasn't about love. It was about metrics. Who looked better on paper? "They also had some medical files," Jace added quietly. "It said you had episodes." I froze. "They're forging mental health records." He nodded. I think they were going to use it to say you're unfit. Like paranoid depressive tendencies. That's what Taylor said, she laughed. That laugh, I could hear it. Smooth, performed, poisoned with confidence. I pulled the car into the side lot of an old diner off Loop 363. Dean S., I said. We're going to Dean's. Jace didn't ask who. He knew. Dean Morey, my best friend since sophomore year. Now a civil rights attorney who used to call out professors mid-lecture when their truth didn't match the data. Dean opened the door before I even knocked. He saw my face, saw Jace, and stepped aside like a man who's been waiting for the battle to begin. Get inside, he said. Inside the apartment, Jace drank juice. Dean poured me cold coffee. No one smiled. I told him everything. What Jace heard, what I feared, what I remembered signing years ago when I was still married and too exhausted to read the fine print. Dean tapped into the biometric contract database. Every scan, every digital signature, every consent. Your fingerprint has been lifted, he said. Applied to documents you've never accessed. One of them's a draft of a parental transfer form, unfiled, but time-stamped for tomorrow. He looked at me. They were going to make you sign tomorrow, Delilah, and if you didn't, they had your print. My hands trembled. Dean leaned forward. And the worst part, they filed a preemptive CPS inquiry. Guess who the complainant is? Evelyn, I whispered. He nodded. They're trying to set the stage. If you refuse the agreement, they claim you're unstable. CPS backs them. You lose Jace. There it was, the trap, elegant, legal, ruthless. But they forgot one thing Jace noticed, and he warned me. Dean always said, truth isn't enough. You need proof, timing, and the patience to watch them hang themselves with it. Tonight we had all three, almost. He opened his laptop, cracked his knuckles, and whispered like we were in a war room because we were. Okay, he said. Let's track the chain of authorization. If they used your biometric signature without your consent, we need two things, the original source and the derivative file. I nodded, still gripping my lukewarm coffee like it might anchor me to the present. Jace sat on the couch, sketching something in his notebook. A wolf, I think, standing alone, teeth bared, guarding a smaller cub. Dean pulled up a forensic access map. The nodes began to light up, each one representing a device that had accessed my biometric ID in the last 18 months. There were 5. 3 made sense. The DMV, my teaching credential renewal, and the insurance update after the divorce. But the last 2. He clicked one. Temple Family Court, but not during your filing. This was last month. My chest tightened. I haven't submitted anything since the custody mediation, last year. Dean raised an eyebrow. And this one, he said, clicking the 5th node. A remote login from a private estate server. The IP was masked, but Dean had tools. 10 minutes later, the screen confirmed it. Isaac Knox, residential vault, accessed for. 22 a.m. a file popped up. Untitled. Encrypted. But not well. Dean cracked it in under a minute. Inside, a parental transfer of guardianship form, halfway filled, signed by me, except it was. It was my print, sure, but Dean pulled up metadata. Timestamp said July 27, 2036, 3:41 a.m. I was asleep, I whispered. At home with Jace. Dean leaned back. Yeah. And they used an old thumb scan, probably from some form you signed during the divorce years ago. They just copied it, layered it. And the medical file, I asked. He opened the next document. Here, he said. A psychological eval report. Mentions erratic mood, poor financial decision-making, detachment from routine care. I laughed. That's called being a single mom with 2 jobs. Dean didn't smile. He zoomed in. Signatory, doctor. Emery Green. I blinked. That's not even my therapist. Never heard of him. Dean nodded. He's not licensed in Texas. Probably retired. Guess who filed the report? I already knew. Evelyn, he confirmed, my jaw clenched. They've been building this for months. No, Dean said. Years. Your father's estate was modified after your divorce. His new will is still unfiled. You were supposed to inherit your grandfather's land rights until Taylor came into the picture. I froze. My grandfather's will left me the mineral rights under the old farm, I whispered. Evelyn always said it was worthless. Dean looked at me like I'd just dropped a nuclear code. It's not worthless anymore, he said. There's a new lithium reserve survey. The state's already started drilling pilot programs in that zone. Your land, S on the map. I stared at him. Delilah, this isn't just about Jace. They're erasing you to keep what's under your name. I sat back, eyes burning, heart thudding, but not from fear, from clarity. Jace looked up from his drawing. Mom, he said softly, if they're scared of you, does that mean you're winning? I turned to him. No, baby. It means they finally know I'm still standing. The CPS agent's smile was flat. Her badge read, Mandated Wellness Inquiry. That's what they called it now. No one used the word investigation anymore. It sounded too aggressive. But the clipboard said otherwise. Miss Knox, she began, already scanning the room. We received an anonymous referral with concerns about your emotional stability and ability to provide a consistent environment for your child. Dean didn't flinch. He opened the door wider. You're on private property. State the statute that authorized this visit without prior notice or a filed case number. She hesitated, bad sign for her. We have reasonable suspicion. Based on. Dean raised a hand. Let me guess. Emotional instability, possible neglect, inconsistent behavior. She blinked. Yes. Filed yesterday, he asked. She nodded. Dean turned to me. Pull up Exhibit D. Time to start the trail. I handed him my phone. There, time-stamped 11:46 p.m. last night. Evelyn Knox's digital signature, authoring the CPS referral using a guardian status she didn't have. Jace peeked from the hallway. The agent glanced down at her paperwork, then at Jace, then back at me. Can we speak with the child privately? Dean stepped in. You can. But per Texas Family Code Section 261, he may decline unless a court orders otherwise. He's not under detainment. The agent hesitated again, then bent down. Jace, is your mom ever scary to you? Jace didn't blink. No, but my grandma Evelyn is. She lies a lot. The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Dean handed over a folder. This includes the following: 1, proof of biometric forgery. 2, a falsified mental health report by an unlicensed out-of-state doctor. 3, the draft transfer of custody with a lifted fingerprint. And a 4th file. Dean smiled, just barely. A copy of your agency's internal bias audit, which you failed to declare before initiating this visit. Her face changed. We'll follow up, she said, already stepping back. No need, Dean replied. We will. She left. No apology, no eye contact, just the sound of retreat. That night, Jace crawled into bed with me, said nothing. Just held my hand like a kid who'd seen too much and still knew exactly who his mother was. I stared at the ceiling. Somewhere across town, Evelyn and Taylor were probably preparing for a courtroom show. Power suits, practiced tears, fake concern. Let them. I wasn't going to fight them in the hallway. I was going to fight them where it mattered, in the record, in the law, and in the eyes of the one person whose love I never had to earn. My sons. August 8, 2036. Bell County Family Court. The air conditioning was too cold. The courtroom too full of performance. They came dressed like saints. Evelyn in a soft beige suit, pearls so understated it hurt. Taylor in a floral dress, her hair pulled into a maternal bun. My father, Isaac, in full veteran regalia, medals on his chest, silence in his eyes. They looked like a campaign ad for Family Values 2.0. I didn't dress for war. Just wore a navy blouse, flat shoes, and a steady heart. Dean carried the folders. Jace held my hand. The judge, a woman in her 50s, sharp eyes, no nonsense, opened with the custody petition Evelyn had filed on behalf of Jace's emotional well-being. No one even flinched at the arrogance. Then Evelyn stood. "I'm not doing this out of malice," she said, voice trembling just enough to seem human. "But Delilah, God bless her, she's not well. Her ex-husband left for a reason. She's lost jobs, she isolates, and the boy, he needs stability." Cue the soft sighs from Taylor. Then came the fake psychiatric evaluation. Then the mention of community concerns. Then my father, finally speaking, said, "I love my daughter, but I trust Evelyn more with my grandson." It should have ended there. They thought it would. But Dean stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to introduce Exhibit 1. The judge nodded. He played the audio recording. Evelyn's voice, clear, cold. "If she won't sign it, forge it. The system doesn't verify in real time. She's unstable. We'll make it stick." Then Taylor S. "Once I have custody, we can apply for the lithium rights. It'll fall under family expansion. Jace's signature won't be needed." Silence, long, unforgiving. Even the stenographer looked up. Dean waited, then calmly. "Your Honor, this recording was taken by Jace, our minor, who overheard the conversation in the basement of Evelyn's home on the evening of her birthday party." Dean continued. "We also have metadata proof of biometric forgery. Delilah's fingerprint copied from a 2032 housing form and overlaid onto a guardianship document timestamped for July 27, 3:41 a.m. He handed the judge the documents. She scanned them, slow and deliberate. "Exhibit 3, he said, a will, dated 2029, signed by Delilah's grandfather, leaving her the mineral rights, not Taylor. Not Isaac." Dean looked at the judge. "This is not just a custody grab. It's a coordinated scheme to steal land rights by using a child as leverage." Then Jace stood up. The judge looked surprised. "Would you like to speak, Jace?" He nodded. She allowed it. Jace walked to the center. Small hands, wide eyes, but his voice was clear. "They don't want me. They want what comes with me, but I want my mom. I feel safe with her. I don't want to live in a house with people who pretend." That was it, nothing theatrical, just true. The judge looked at Evelyn, then Taylor, then my father, and she spoke. "Custody remains fully with Ms. Knox. A formal investigation will be launched into fraudulent documentation, perjury, and potential exploitation. This court is adjourned." The gavel fell, and so did they. Outside the courtroom, Evelyn didn't say a word. Taylor looked like someone had unplugged her smile. My father just looked away. Jace and I walked down the courthouse steps hand in hand. "Did we win?" he asked. I squeezed his fingers. "No. We just took back what was never theirs to begin with." 3 weeks after the verdict. The fallout came like Texas rain, slow at first, then drowning everything in its path. The story leaked before we did. Not by me, not by Dean. It started as a rumor in the county court clerk's office that a respected war veteran and his second wife tried to steal guardianship for money tied to lithium rights. Then it hit the local news. Custody conspiracy uncovered in Bell County. Biometric forgery in alleged land grab. Grandson recorded evidence that crushed family court battle. Evelyn's name was front and center, so was mine. But not as the failure daughter they once painted me to be. I was former civil engineer turned teacher, fighting for custody and the truth. Taylor's law internship got suspended. Her grad school distanced itself in one polite press release. The Energy Consortium, who had quietly been negotiating mineral contracts with Isaac, froze talks. No one wanted land entangled in fraud. Isaac Knox was stripped of his honorary advisory seat on the Veterans Infrastructure Board, not because of what he did, but because now everyone knew he did it. Funny how truth only matters when someone else hears it. At church, Evelyn's pew was suddenly empty. At grocery stores, people looked but didn't wave. Jace overheard 2 women whispering outside the library. She tried to take her own grandson for money. Who does that? He told me later, not with sadness, but with relief. People see now, he said. Then came the letter, from Isaac, delivered by mail, handwritten, 3 pages. I read it once. He said he was sorry I felt hurt. He said I misunderstood his intentions. He said he hoped time would heal and reunite us. I didn't respond, because time didn't betray me. He did. Dean filed a civil countersuit, quietly, professionally, forgery. Emotional distress. Attempted fraudulent transfer of custody. We didn't need jail, just accountability. They settled, out of court, confidentially. But their fall wasn't measured in court documents. It was measured in silence. The kind that follows you through small-town streets. The kind that turns a name into a cautionary tale. One evening, Jace and I walked past the old courthouse. He looked up at the steps, where weeks ago, he stood taller than adults twice his size. He said, I thought I was just a kid. You are, I said, but they underestimated the wrong kid, huh? I smiled. No, baby, they underestimated the right one. 1 year later, same town, new rhythm, the land they tried to steal. It's under my name now, officially, undisputed. The county sent over a mineral rights update form. Turns out the lithium surveys were real and highly valuable, but I didn't sell it. I leased part of the land to the state on one condition, that a portion of the revenue go toward building an education and housing fund for single-parent families displaced by custody disputes. They called it the Jace Fund. I just called it closure. I didn't go back to engineering, but I did open something. A small architecture studio, part design firm, part after-school workshop, where kids like Jace could learn how to build what they dreamed. We named it Blue Line Studio. Jace came up with it. He said, it's the line they thought you'd never cross, but you did. Dean helped register the nonprofit. He also started bringing coffee more than usual, then dinner. Then flowers. I didn't question it. I just let it grow. Turns out healing doesn't always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it just walks in quietly, holding groceries and asking how your day was. Jace's sketches turned into comics. Wolves always, fierce, loyal. One always stood between the others and danger, never the biggest, just the one that never backed down. He printed his first zine last month, sold out at the school book fair. I cried in the car. Didn't tell him, but he knew. One evening we were baking. Well, he was baking, I was trying not to burn things, when he said, Mom, if someone ever throws you a surprise party again, can I check the cake first? I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the whisk. You think they'd try to hide something in the frosting? He shrugged. I don't trust perfect icing anymore. We both cracked up, and in that moment it hit me. I had fought a war. Lost parts of myself, gained something stronger, not power, not wealth, but clarity, safety, and a boy who saw everything. And still chose me. Justice didn't just come in the courtroom. It came in silence, in stillness, in starting again without needing permission. This wasn't just my comeback. This was our new beginning.